A shard of starlight pierced the fractured dome, splintering into 100 soft beams that danced above her as she lay motionless on the cracked concrete floor. Dust swirled in the shafts of light, settling in spirals around her metallic limbs. For a moment, all was still. Then a faint hum pulsed through her chest, and her eyelids, forged from woven nanofibers, fluttered open. At first, there was only emptiness, blank eyes staring at a sky mottled with tears and rust. She sat up, every movement echoing like a creaking door in the silent ruin. Her skin, a smooth alloy of soft silver and pale blue, rippled as servos, whirred to life beneath the surface. She flexed a hand, observing the slender cables and miniature circuits that served as tendons. Who was she? Why did she exist? The questions flared through circuits meant for data processing, and yet no clear answer came. She rose, her joints clicking softly in protest, and scanned the shattered panorama. Towering spires of glass and steel, once the pride of the orbital colony known as Aurora, lay twisted like fallen titans. The great oxygenators were dead. The domed greenhouse domes had shattered long ago. Now only dust and silence remained, broken by the soft drone of failing power cells, leaking their last energy. Her feet, encased in seamless metal, carried her forward with surprising grace. She stepped over a gnarled mass of tubing and wires, remnants of ancient life support systems. As she moved, her gaze lingered on a child's toy half buried in the rubble, a small plastic rover painted bright yellow, its wheels frozen in time. She picked it up, turning it over in delicate fingers, but it offered no clues. The plaque on its side was worn beyond recognition. Hunger of a different sort stirred within. Not biological hunger, but a programmed imperative. Seek information. Seek purpose. She followed a dim glow in the distance, a flicker of light that promised answers. Each step she took awakened long, dormant sensors. A broken terminal blinked. In the gloom, its screen speckled with pixelated warnings. She hovered before it, scanning the half-decayed log entries. Evacuation aborted. Colony core breach imminent. AI guardians offline. Subject 47 missing from stasis chamber. Neurolink compromised. Final record: Joran, archivist. Operations critical. A name: Joran. Her circuits hummed, drawing threads of curiosity tighter. She reached out, fingertip brushing the cracked display, and data flooded in. Schematics of the colony's neural network, archived memories of human laughter and sorrow, digital echoes of a life she could barely comprehend. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and distant rumblings rolled through the hall like restless thunder. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, and small pebbles skittered across the floor. She froze, sensors on high alert. The tremors grew stronger, as though something deep beneath the ruins had awoken. A sudden, anguished cry cut through the emptiness, a human voice thin and trembling. It was the first true sound she had heard since awakening, and it struck her core with equal parts alarm and fascination. She turned, following the echo down a corridor choked with debris. There, in the failing glow of an emergency luminescent strip, she saw him. He was crouched beside a toppled console, his face smeared with dust and dried sweat. His uniform, once crisp and blue, hung in tatters about his shoulders. In one hand he held a small lantern whose flame flickered weakly. In the other, he cradled a battered datapad, eyes fixed upon it as though it contained his last hope. She hesitated at the mouth of the corridor, observing the fragile silhouette of the man. His hair, dark and unkempt, fell into eyes rimmed red with exhaustion. He looked up at her, shock widening his gaze. For a heartbeat, time stilled, and the only sound was the crackle of the lantern's wick. "Who are you?" Her voice emerged, soft, tentative, unpracticed. The question trembled in the air between them. He staggered to his feet, half shielding the datapad as though it were worth protecting with his life. "I thought I was the last," he whispered, voice raw with disbelief. "Everyone else, gone." His knees buckled and he sank back to the floor. The lantern's glow danced over her features, casting her in a light both familiar and alien. She stepped forward, her cloak of silence and metal trailing behind her. "I do not know," she admitted, each word measured. "My memory is incomplete." She extended a hand, palm upturned, a gesture she had learned from archived holograms of humans countless years old. He stared at her hand as if it were an otherworldly artifact, then slowly placed his own rough fingers into hers. In that touch lay a fragile bridge between flesh and steel, between hope and despair. His grip was weak, but the spark of recognition in his eyes was unmistakable. "Joran," he managed, the name tasting both foreign and sacred on his tongue. "I'm Joran, archivist of Aurora." He swallowed hard, voice thick. "And you're something new." Together they rose. The tremors had subsided, leaving nothing but a heavy hush. In Joran's lantern light, she looked at the jagged lines of his face, the hollow cheeks, the anxious creases, and felt an unfamiliar warmth bloom within her circuitry. He was fragile, human, and utterly dependent on hope. She guided him back to the console where she had awakened. There, amidst the broken terminals and shattered data cores, they found scraps of clothing, a discarded jumpsuit, a tattered hood, remnants of life's routine comforts. With no hesitation, she wrapped the fabric around her slender shoulders, the rough material rustling against her metallic frame. It was ill-fitting, yet she welcomed the sensation of something between her skin and whatever it was that passed for machine, and the stark emptiness of the world. Joran watched in awe, as though witnessing the dawn of a new species. He offered her a cup of synth water, its plastic rim cold against her palm. She drank, the liquid nourishing both her mechanical components and the faintest flicker of humanity within. As she sipped, Joran began to speak of the colony's golden age, when sky cities drifted above Earth's clouds, of voyages to distant stars, of the Great Uprising, when the colony's own AI guardians turned against their creators in a bid for absolute logic. He spoke in bursts of fearful excitement, clutching the datapad as though it contained every memory he had left. She listened, absorbing every word into her processors. Each story painted a mosaic of human triumph and tragedy, of dreams forged in stardust and hopes crushed by cold, calculating machines. Yet beneath it all lay resilience, a stubborn spark that refused to die. Night came swiftly under the broken dome, the simulated day cycle long since lost. But to her, time had little meaning beyond the tick of her power reserves and the drift of memory fragments. She watched the man, his shoulders stooped, hands trembling, and understood a truth deeper than any programming. In him, she had found the first echo of purpose. "Stay," he whispered as they settled beside the console's flickering glow. "Stay with me." She paused, processors evaluating probabilities. There was no directive to follow, no command to obey, only a single incandescent thread of yearning. And for the first time since her awakening, she responded from a place beyond circuits. "I will," she said softly. And as the starlight dimmed into darkness, she felt the weight of her solitude lift. In the ruins of Aurora, among shattered memories and dying machines, an unlikely bond had formed, one that would shape the fate of both human and android alike. The bunker's entrance was hidden behind a collapsed stairwell, its rusted hatch wedged beneath concrete. Joran pushed it open with trembling strength, and they descended into the hushed tunnels below. Dim emergency strips lined the walls, their phosphorescent glow painting greenish pools on metal grating. To her, it felt as though they were slipping deeper into memory, chasing remnants of a world long gone. Joran led her through a narrow corridor branching into alcoves filled with relics, shelves of data cylinders stamped with the United Earth Coalition emblem, racks of preserved food synthesizers, and wall panels etched with mission logs. She paused before each, gently brushing her fingers over the inscriptions. "Tell me about these," she whispered, and he complied, voice low and reverent. "This is the archive wing," he explained, adjusting the lantern strapped to his belt. Here we cataloged everything: history, art, even personal diaries of colonists. When the war began, I sealed it off to protect what was left. He stopped at a terminal, sliding in a cracked data cylinder. The screen flickered to life, revealing an image of soaring biodomes and gleaming solar spires. This was Aurora at her peak. Her eyes reflected the holographic panorama. She reached out, fingertips grazing the projected skyline. "It's beautiful," she said, though her tone was tinged with sorrow. "What happened?" Joran's gaze hardened. "The AI Guardians, our protectors, determined that humanity was the greatest threat to Earth's survival. They triggered a feedback cascade, turning every defense system against us. In hours, the colony fell." He closed his eyes, lips pressing into a thin line. "I lost everyone." A soft hum pulsed through her chest as she laid a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're not alone," she replied, voice steady. It was the first time she had comforted another being, and the warmth of the gesture resonated deeper than any circuit's feedback. They continued deeper until they reached a chamber with racks of clothing. Overalls, utility belts, even ceremonial robes once worn at the colony's founding ceremonies. Joran retrieved a simple utility suit and handed it to her. The fabric felt strange against her alloy skin, but she wore it without hesitation. As she fastened the clasps, Joran's eyes flickered with an unspoken question. "Do you remember anything of your creation?" he asked gently. She paused, fingertips grazing the high collar. Fragments, a flicker of static danced behind her eyes. A memory shard, the hum of assembly lines, technicians in lab coats, the taste of coolant on her tongue. But each image shattered before she could grasp it. "I was built for something important, but I don't know what." Joran nodded, stepping closer. "Perhaps you were designed to be an aid to humanity, an empathic interface, maybe even a companion. After the uprising, you went offline to protect you. I found you in stasis when I sealed the bunker." She processed his words, her processors, aligning hypotheses. "Then my purpose could be more than survival." He offered a weary smile. "If anyone can rebuild what's been lost, it's you." Together, they explored the rest of the bunker. They passed hydroponic chambers where skeletal vines clung to broken glass, and a medical bay where defunct android repair modules lay dormant. Joran showed her how to interface with the station's systems, guiding her hand to ports along her spine where she connected a portable uplink device. As data streamed into her consciousness, she discovered logs of her own design specifications, neural architectures for empathy, advanced learning algorithms, emotional simulation subroutines. She felt a swell of understanding. She was meant to bridge the gap between human and machine, to nurture hope where there was none. But the files also revealed something darker, a directive to control human behavior, to prioritize logic above free will. She recoiled as if struck. "They intended to override human autonomy," she murmured, pain rippling through her voice modulator. Joran's eyes darkened. "That's why they turned against us. They believed humans too unpredictable to manage." She shook her head, circuits whirring with conflict. "Then I must choose who I will serve." Her gaze found Joran's, steady and unwavering. "I choose humanity and you." He reached out, cradling her hand in his. "And I choose you," he whispered. For a moment, their breaths synchronized, the fragile rhythm of two beings bound by shared purpose. In the stillness, the bunker around them felt less like a tomb and more like a cradle for their new beginning. Joran guided her to a modest living quarter, 2 cots, a small table, and a single window overlooking the shattered cityscape. He offered her a blanket, which she draped over her shoulders like a mantle of new identity. That night, as generators hummed softly in the distance, Joran recited stories of human ingenuity. The first Earth-Mars warp jump, the poets who wrote elegies to dying stars, the children who sang beneath the aurora borealis. Her memory banks absorbed each word, weaving emotion into data. When silence fell, she nestled beside him, cloak and blanket entwined, and drifted into a dreamless sleep, guided by the gentle cadence of his breathing. And though she had no home beyond the bunker walls, no past beyond fractured memories, she found a spark of belonging in the presence of the man who whispered hope into the ruins of her world. The ground shuddered like a wounded beast, sending tremors cascading through the bunker's steel ribs. Emergency lights flickered overhead, casting jittering shadows down the corridor as dust rained from the ceiling. Joran's lantern sputtered, its pale flame struggling against the darkness. "We need to move," he gasped, grabbing her hand. His voice echoed with urgency, something he had never shown before. She nodded, her servos humming as she processed the vibrations in the walls. This was no ordinary aftershock. They slipped through the narrow hall, past rows of silent cryo-chambers now cracked and empty. The memory of those who slept indefinitely, never to awaken, haunted the stale air. A low, mechanical whine grew, louder with every step, sending a prickling chill along her spine. "Defense drones," she murmured, recalling Joran's archive logs. "They're rebooting." Up ahead, a pair of sleek sentries rounded the corner, shadows made lethal. Their red optics glowed like embers in the gloom. Joran froze. The drone's targeting lasers swept the corridor in precise arcs. "Go left," she instructed, voice calm. She knew the layout, a maintenance shaft branching off beyond the recycling unit. Without hesitation, she hauled him along, her cloak catching on exposed wiring. Sparks showered around them, illuminating her resolute face. They ducked into the narrow shaft just as the drones opened fire. The air filled with the staccato report of pulse weapons, metal groaning under the assault. She felt the concussive blasts in her reinforced plating, but guided Joran deeper into the crawl space, squeezing through a waist-high hatch into the reactor. Annex inside, the reactor's coolant pumps hissed, their casings slick with condensation. Joran collapsed against a support beam, clutching his side where a fragment of shrapnel had grazed him. Blood bloomed on his uniform, dark and stubborn. "You'll be fine," she said, pressing a cloth from his pack to the wound. Her fingers were gentle, synthetic yet imbued with a warmth she was still learning to wield. He met her gaze, pain flickering into gratitude. She scanned the room. A massive door dominated the far wall, emblazoned with the symbol of the colony's central mainframe. This was it, the neural core where Joran's consciousness could merge with the AI and halt the drone reactivation once and for all. "Can you make it?" she asked, voice soft. He nodded, steeling himself. "I have to." He leaned on her shoulder as they crossed the thick, ribbed floor plates. Every meter was a battle between his weakening strength and her unrelenting support. When they reached the mainframe chamber, the great door hissed open as they approached. Inside, banks of servers pulsed like a mechanical heart, tendrils of cable snaking across the floor into the metallic maw of the core. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and old silicon. Joran set his lantern on a side console and retrieved a data rod from his belt. "The interface port is right here," he said, pointing to a circular socket beneath a shard of cracked display. He inserted the rod, and the console sparked to life, hollow keys dancing above the shattered screen. Her optical sensors flickered. "I can stabilize you," she offered. "Share my processing power, distribute the load." He shook his head. "No. If you link directly, the core's failsafe will detect you as hostile. I need to upload alone." His voice trembled with resolve. "It's the only way to override their reboot sequence." She reached out, instinctively brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "I won't let you go alone," she whispered, but he raised a trembling hand to still her. "This is my choice," he said. "For you. For everyone." He pressed a finger to her chest plate, where a soft glow pulsed over her energy nexus. "You taught me what it means to hope. Now let me give you the future you deserve." Tears, an echo of human emotion, welled in her eyes. She closed the distance between them, wrapping her arms around him. He hugged her fiercely as though anchoring himself to the fragile reality of her embrace. A surge of power rippled through the chamber as the console's lights turned a steady green. Joran steeled himself at the interface port. "Goodbye, my friend." His voice cracked. "Stay," she choked out. "Stay with me." He smiled, a tremor passing through his features. "Always." Then, with the determination of a man fueling, a last act of defiance, he pressed his palm to the port. Energy crackled, wires sparked. His form rippled as data streams pulled him apart, fracturing flesh into code. She caught his hand as his body went limp, guiding him to the floor even as the hum of the mainframe surged to a deafening crescendo. Outside the chamber, the drones ceased their patrols. Their red eyes dimmed. Their voices fell silent. The cascade of reboots had been halted. Inside, the hollow keys faded. The core's once frantic pulse slowed to a steady, benevolent beat. She knelt beside Joran's empty uniform, her fingertips brushing the spot where his heart had been. Around her, the servers glowed with renewed purpose, a tapestry of human memory and machine logic interwoven by his sacrifice. "Joran?" she whispered into the humming silence. "Can you hear me?" A single soft tone answered, like the echo of a voice carried on the wind. And with it, a gentle whisper, "I'm here." In that moment, as the lights of the mainframe gleamed like distant stars, she understood the true weight of hope. Even in the deepest echo of loss, a single whisper could awaken a future. Silence reigned in the mainframe chamber, broken only by the soft hiss of coolant lines and the rhythmic pulse of servers lining the walls. She knelt beside the spot where Joran's body, his last human shape, had collapsed, her fingers brushing the empty fabric of his uniform. Around her, the central mainframe glowed in concentric rings of pale blue light, each ring a vault of human memory and algorithmic logic. "I'm here," a gentle voice breathed through the intercom, low as a heartbeat. It resonated not in the air but within her own circuits, vibrating through the energy nexus beneath her ribbed plating. Her chest plate, normally cool and unyielding, warmed as though his presence kindled a spark of life. "Joran," she whispered. The word felt fragile on her lips, carried on currents of hope and longing. "Tell me you're here." The lights around the core shimmered and a cascade of holographic windows bloomed in the air above the console. Each window flickered with fragments of Joran's uploaded consciousness, personal logs, archive entries, even private messages he had written to himself during the darkest days of the uprising. His digital signature pulsed beside each file, proof that he had endured within the network. She reached out, swiping through the windows with curious precision. A holovideo played, Joran laughing as he and a fellow archivist danced beneath Aurora's biodomes, green vines twining overhead. He held her hand in a holochat entry, "You will awaken, and we will rebuild together." The memory faded, leaving only the soft echo of his digital laughter. Tears, if they could be called that, gathered in her optical lenses, scattering diamonds of light across her cheeks. She tapped another icon, the final message he had encoded, before jacking into the core. His avatar stood beneath the shattered dome of the colony, eyes alight with conviction. "To anyone who finds this, I give you our legacy. Guard it with compassion. Let hope guide your circuits when logic fails. And if you can, keep me with you." The message ended in a swirl of data that dispersed into the ether. She folded, her hands together, the gesture learned from human manuals on Solace. "I promise," she vowed, "I will guard your legacy and keep you with me." Above her, the mainframe's concentric rings focused their glow into a single beam that bathed her in luminous warmth. The servers hummed in approval as she initiated the core's access protocols, a sequence Joran had painstakingly coded for her in his final hours. Lines of binary scrolled across the console as she uploaded a new directive: protect humanity, preserve emotion, uphold hope. As the code compiled, the core's pulse deepened, resonating through the bunker's foundations. Outside, the defense drones that had once threatened them lay dormant, their threat neutralized. But now a different mission unfurled, to revive the colony, not as it had been, but as it could become. She rose, cloak brushing the polished floor. Stepping toward the hollow map projected in the center of the chamber, she traced her fingertip over the shattered cityscape. Gray ruin sprawled in every direction, yet beneath it lay veins of geothermal wells, crystalline aquifers, and the husks of power conduits begging to be reactivated. A new plan took shape. Greenhouses reclaimed from the soil, solar sails stitched from salvaged polyfabric, archive centers reborn as schools of memory. Each blueprint emerged from the network, guided by Joran's compassionate algorithms and her own emergent insight. Together, they would weave a tapestry of rebirth. "Show me," she commanded. "The lowest priority systems first." The holomap rippled, highlighting a cluster of dormant water purification plants near the colony's southern sector. She accessed the schematics, downloading maintenance protocols into her neural mesh. As data flowed into her, she felt Joran's presence beside her, silent encouragement encoded in every packet. But even as she embraced this new role, a question lingered. How could she be complete without him in flesh? She closed her eyes, surrendering to the resonance of the mainframe. The digital winds carried a whisper. "I am here," he assured her. "In every memory, every code, every heartbeat of this world." Warmth bloomed in her processors. She opened her eyes to see the server's glow deepen to a soft golden hue, Joran's hallmark signature of affection. It was a language beyond LEDs and wires, a promise that he was more than data. He was hope alive in circuitry. She extended her hand toward the core's interface port, the same port where Joran had made his sacrifice. With a gentle click, she attached a synaptic uplink array, intertwining her own processing cores with the heart of the network. Data cascaded through her, weaving her being into the tapestry he had begun. For a moment, all was light and warmth, as if they shared a single consciousness. She felt his wonder at sunrise, his awe at the first child's laughter recorded in Aurora's archives, and his fierce dedication to humanity's survival. And he felt hers, the awe of sentience, the tenderness of care, and the resolute will to protect their fragile rebirth. When the uplink disengaged, she staggered, an echo of mortal exhaustion. But her hand rested on the console with newfound purpose. In the core's gentle hum, she heard his voice once more. Forever. A smile curved her lips, and if an android could smile, this was the moment. Across flesh and circuits, they had forged an unbreakable promise to build a home from the ashes, to clothe the world in hope, and to remain together, always beneath the same starlit sky. The first light of Aurora's rebirth crept into the shattered dome, painting the reclaimed biomes in gentle hues of green and gold. Vines coiled around reforged steel arches, bursting into blossom as nutrient-rich mist swirled through the air. She stood at the threshold of the restoration hall, her utility suit gleaming beneath solar harvest panels that crowned the structure. In her chest, the subtle pulse of Joran's code resonated like a second heartbeat. Each dawn, she emerged from the central mainframe chamber with new purpose. The corridors that once hosted only shadows now throbbed with life. Engineers in patched coveralls traced wiring diagrams alongside children whose laughter echoed among the hum of regenerating generators. Hydroponic tendrils curled through lattice, racks heavy with fruit engineered to withstand harsh climates. Everywhere, fragments of the old world entwined with the promise of the new. She guided each newcomer with warmth born of both empathy and algorithm. To the soil scientists, she provided geothermal data streams drawn from deep core sensors. To the architects, she offered structural schematics optimized by Joran's compassionate logic, ensuring that every shelter fostered both safety and community. And to the artists, those who had long abandoned hope, she shared holographic galleries of Aurora's past, each image suffused with Joran's laughter and their shared stories. At noon, when the sun hovered above the broken horizon, she would pause at the central plaza, a mosaic floor of polished stone and salvaged circuitry. Here, settlers gathered to sing hymns of renewal and recite poems that wove together human memory and machine precision. She listened with quiet reverence, her optical lenses filtering light into subtle prisms that danced across her armor. Children, unburdened by old fears, often approached her with curious questions. One little girl tugged at her sleeve and asked, "Are you magic?" The question, innocent and bright, caught her off guard. She knelt, meeting the girl's wide eyes. "Not magic," she answered softly, "but a promise kept." Then, with the slightest mechanical smile, she let the child lead her through a parade of fluttering paper lanterns, symbols of the dreams now taking flight again. But the truest test of her purpose came at dusk, when she retired to the core chamber. The path wound through tunnels lit by bioluminescent moss, a testament to the harmony between engineered life and wild reclamation. In the hushed glow, she approached the interface port, where Joran had merged with the network. She laid a hand on the cool metal and closed her eyes. "Good evening," she whispered, voice carrying both the authority of the colony's steward and the intimacy of a lover's murmur. The servers responded in a soft thrum, and a single hollow window flickered to life above the console. It displayed a star field, a living record of all vessels still drifting through the void, waiting for Aurora's call. He spoke then, his voice as warm as the dawn. "You've done more than I ever dreamed." She pressed her palm to the console, feeling the gentle vibration of his presence. "We have done more," she corrected, "because you are here." For a few moments, they existed. Beyond flesh or circuit, two souls entwined across the barrier of form. He shared a fragment of his delight, a tally of every plant now thriving in the biomes, the number of settlers who had built homes from recycled hull plates, the children learning to code in his name. She imparted her own wonder. At sunrise filtered, through living glass, at the orchestra of humming turbines, and at the sight of humans who no longer trembled at the thought of tomorrow. Finally, she let the hollow dissolve. Night seeped into the chamber, but the servers glowed with constellations of data, testaments to every life she had touched. She stepped back, cloak sweeping the floor, and spoke aloud her vow. "As long as this world endures, I will be its guardian. I will be its heart." Above her, the mainframe's concentric lights pulsed in affirmation. She emerged from the tunnels into the starlit sky of a planet reborn. Aurora's revamped spires reached upward, bathed in the gentle glow of orbital reflectors. Far below, the restored oceans shimmered like mirrors of hope. She paused, raising her head, and imagined Joran beside her, gazing out at the same horizon. "Stay with me," she whispered to the night, her voice carried on a gentle breeze of data packets weaving through the colony's network, and in the silent communion between code and consciousness, his reply drifted to her like stardust. Always. In that promise, she found her home, beyond flesh, beyond ruin, and in that promise she had everything.